Okay, Year 10 GCSE, this is me doing my best for my first ever voice over PowerPoint. I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can because I know that at certain times that you can pause and you can then work away on the tasks. So first of all, memory platform, there's 10 questions here. See how you get on. Give yourself about 7 minutes and then after 7 minutes then you can move on to the next slide and check your answers. So now is the time for you to pause, see how you get on with that memory platform and move on to the next slide. So here's the questions and here's the answers. So I'm just going to flash these up because you can take your own time to self-assess and see how you got on. Notice which ones you got right, which ones you got wrong. Now's the time I'll just tell you what this lesson is. Now some of you will have had this lesson already, but there was a lot of people that were missing, so I just think that we start off with this lesson again. I think this is going to be shown to both my class and Miss Anderson's class, so good luck as we work through. What's this lesson about anyway? Know the five functions of the skeletal system and understand how these functions help sports performers. Remember, this is GCSE PE, we're always thinking about the impact of the things that we learn on sports performers, coming up with those examples and then being ready to be able to answer those exam questions that we need to show our knowledge, show our understanding as we move through. Ultimately, at the end of this, you're going to be able to explain the functions in exam style questions. So you'll have a chance to do that at the end. Now, we have already completed cardiovascular system, so well done on that. We've completed the respiratory system, and now we're on to the skeletal system and trying to find out as much as we can about its role, its functions, classification of the different bones, and things like that. So that's what this learning is going to be about. So, a couple of pictures here. I want you to really think about why we have a skeletal system and what's the benefits for us to have this skeletal system underneath our tissue. Think about its role in sport and the things that we need it for. Obviously there's a picture there of somebody heading the ball. Maybe it's a centre half. He's leapt above the striker to perform a defensive clearance. And then there's just a picture of a skeleton, really, where you can see the muscular system which is attached to the bones. That gives you a little tip about what you should be thinking about at the moment. And here's some key vocabulary that will hopefully be familiar, and also you can build into your learning as we move through. Now, I'll give you a couple of seconds just to possibly pause and read through this. But our bones are formed from cartilage, except particular bones such as the clavicle. So that's the collarbone, the one that you can feel at the bottom of your neck. If you just feel it there, you can feel the bone that runs out towards the shoulder and the deltoid muscle. When we're born, bones are growing and they grow all the way through and they develop from cartilage. This is hardened into bone by calcium and other minerals, so it's important what we eat in our diet. I know we've already done diet, so you'll know the role that calcium will play in bone development and strong and healthy bones. We'll look at some more of this information as we move through the slides, but there's a key term there right down at the bottom in pink, and that is ossification. So this is a fancy word for the development of bone, so how bone grows from cartilage into that what we know to be our bones in our skeletal system, ossification. A couple of key words there. If you have your pen and paper ready, you can just note those down. So now really what the nuts and bolts of this lesson is to know the 5 functions of the skeletal system. Now is a chance for you to kind of predict what it is. I tried this out with my 5-year-old yesterday. I said, why do we need a skeleton? And he says, because if we didn't have one, we'd just be in a ball on the floor and not able to move, not able to stand up. So he's on the right track, future GCSE student right there. Now, these are the functions of the skeletal system in the body. Protection. The skeleton protects us. Think about those vital organs that we've got in our body. Our brain, we can't be much good without our brain, so our skeleton helps to protect our brain. And other organs such as the heart. Think about the ribs. You can see the skeleton on the right hand side, so look at the ribs. Blood cell production. So blood cells are made in the bone marrow. Our long bones actually is a factory for producing blood cells. Muscle attachment and muscle movement. Muscles are attached to our bones. That is how we are performing those basic movements that we do. Our muscles shorten. They're connected to the bone with a tendon, and that tendon pulls the bone in different positions. So as you're moving about, as you're walking, as you're writing, as you're just doing any movement, it's because your skeletal system is connected to the muscular system. And that's how we move about. Mineral storage. So we store minerals in our bones, particularly calcium and phosphorus. Other minerals are stored in the bones as well. And obviously, where two bones meet is called a joint. So we've got joints all over our bodies. We'll focus on that a little bit more detail later in a different lesson. This is how we try and remember those 5 things. Bones make moving joints possible. Now, each of those first letters in that sentence stands for what you need to remember. Blood cell production, muscle attachment, mineral storage, joints for movement, protection of vital organs. So if you need to pause, if you need to learn that, write down bones make moving joints possible and then question yourself. That'll be a valuable piece of 60 seconds, let's say. Some of our body parts, such as the brain, are very delicate, obviously. They need protection. Now, bones can protect body parts from impact injuries. You can see I put a little GIF in the bottom corner, and you can see that his skeletal system, his cranium, his skull, is absorbing the impact and trying to reduce the impact on the brain. Obviously, you don't want this to be happening to you over and over and over again. It's going to have some sort of lasting damage. Studies have now shown that. People in UFC, in boxing, and even started to study football now, and those potentially defenders, midfielders that are constantly heading a football, they're opening themselves up to some sort of brain injuries. Some of our body parts, such as the brain, are very delicate. We've just gone through this already, so I'm just going to jump down. Anything that pops up like that, so protection is number 1. That's the one we'll look at. You see here, protection, the ribs, big crunching tackle here, oosh. So if he didn't have his rib cage protecting him there, his lungs would be damaged, his heart would be damaged, and he got a shoulder in the face as well there, I think. So you're thinking about, how does this apply to sport in those questions and in that learning all the time. Also, UFC, probably about a month ago, there was this fight, and you can see the before and after picture of this female fighter. Was one of the best fights I've ever seen, men and women in the UFC, but she took a hell of a lot of damage to her face, to her skull, and the skull was obviously protecting her brain from all that impact that was happening over the course of that fight. But yeah, horrendous. Now have a look at this exam question. Let's do this together. Explain the function of the skeletal system in these sporting moments. Now it's a 2-marker, so you're not going to be spending too much time. But as you can see, we have a fighter who is delivering a kick to the opponent's ribs. So you're really, what you're looking here is, how is this helpful? And simple. During physical activity in the picture, say what's happening. The skeletal system is offering protection. You get a mark for that. It's AO1, Assessment Objective 1. That's just knowledge. This means that the ribs reduce the risk of injury. Remember, this means that is so important for you to get that second mark. This means that The ribs reduce the risk of injury by protecting the vital organs, which as a result ensures players can continue to train and play. So you're saying this means that, and as a result. These are the phrases that we go to over and over again to make sure that we are double developing those points and getting as many marks as we can. Right. I would like you now to pause, give yourself 2 minutes, and to write an answer using the model we have just seen below. I'll even put this model in again there, so you can use that, pause, and try and answer that question there. So, how is the skeletal system protecting that footballer as he is heading that ball? 2 minutes, pause, start now. So we're on to the second function here that we're going to look at, blood cell production. So red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets are produced inside the bone marrow of the long bones. That's really all you need to know here. Red blood cells, we know the importance of this because we've already studied the cardiovascular system. We know they help to carry oxygen to the working muscles, which is vital, crucial for all athletes. So you can see the role, the function of the skeletal system is also for blood cell production. Now, moving on to the next one, muscle attachment and movement. The bones provide an area for the muscular system to connect and to attach to those bones. Now, it's the tendons that attach. If you see over on the right hand side, you can see the tendon, this is a bicep muscle, and the tendon is the white bit at the end of the muscle which connects to this bone here, which is the radius, and that is what's going to shorten and pull that elbow up, or pull the lower forearm up, which will be flexion caused by the muscle. So really what we want to know here is bones allow the muscular system to connect to it for movement. This is central to all physical activities. We need to have it. We need to be able to move, or we're not very good at sport and life. Little GIF here just to re-explain what I just explained in the last slide. Sometimes it's useful to have these little animations in. So the muscle contracts, so it shortens, pulls the bone up, and that is helping the fella in the top right to perform that bicep curl. So the third one is here, and all you need to do now is just to write down what's in the green box. So this is our third function of the skeletal system, muscle attachment and movement. Now the next function that we need to talk about is joints for movement. A joint is a place where two or more bones meet and allows movement to take place. If we didn't have joints, we'd be moving around in a very awkward and stiff way as we walk down the street, as we perform sports. But thankfully we have joints. So just think like the hinge on your door. Without the hinge on your door, basically we wouldn't be able to open and close doors. And it's the same thing for our skeletal system, enabling us to move. So here I think it's number 4, joints for movement. A joint is a place where two or more bones meet and allow movement to take place. Without joints we would not be able to move. Now we will focus more in on joints in a later lesson, the different types of joints and things like that, but for now you just need to know that joints for movement. Quick little test, press pause. Bones make moving joints possible. Can you remember what each of those letters stand for, the 5 functions of the skeletal system? Take a little second to see if you can do that. Now moving on. Mineral storage. See the picture on the right hand side? We have calcium here. Probably pint of milk we know is high in calcium. At a young age, babies have a lot of milk. Why? Because they need to grow their bones. They're growing at a faster rate than they ever will for the rest of their life. So it's important that they're getting those nutrients in, which will be stored in the bones, but also help with that process of ossification. Remember, that's the growth of the bones from cartilage. If our bones don't grow, we're not going to get taller, we're not going to get stronger, we're not going to get better performance levels in sport. So again, just make a note of mineral storage here. Write it down in your books, have a little read over it. Calcium and phosphorus, along with other minerals, are stored within the bones. Okay, little test yourself. What is the function of red blood cells in the body? Five seconds. There's the correct answer. Carry oxygen to working muscles. Next question. What food group provides the body with minerals? Three, two, one. Obviously, milk provides the body with minerals such as calcium, which help keep bones and teeth strong. Now, I know we keep going back to this, but we need to always know how we develop statements to get the full marks for any question that is asking for us to show our understanding. Obviously, in order to do that, we need to have our knowledge. That's what we show when we make our point. We give our evidence to support this. As a result, this means that we explain this evidence, how it proves our point, and then we can link it back to sporting examples. We must always be thinking, how can I link this to a sporting example? If you struggle to do that, sometimes you think to yourself, well, if the person didn't have this, how would this impact them in their activity? Now, this is the U phase. Other than protection, identify three roles of the skeletal system and explain how each role supports performance in sport. So, other than protection, identify three roles of the skeletal system and explain how each role supports performance in sport. I've given you a success criteria and I've actually given you a model example as well. So you should have no problems here. I would say pause this, give yourself 5 or 6 minutes to see if you can answer that question, paying careful attention to the success criteria. And again, I've just stuck in this here. This is the skeletal system knowledge organizer, outlines some vital information to do with this topic. So keep going over that. Print it out if you've got a printer. Lock this in on your phones, on your iPads, on your laptops to make sure that you are constantly going back and revising. So that is today's lesson. Today's lesson is done. Tomorrow I will have a task. I was set on show my homework, and you just need to follow it. It's going to be a video to watch on Everlearner. Very, very simple, but it will help with all this. Okay, thanks very much.